Welcome to My Millennial Money Express. I'm Glen James. Thanks for listening today, and thank you for watching if you're watching on M3 TV on YouTube. I want to talk today about income protection insurance and coronavirus. There's a lot going on with people losing their jobs, not being able to work. It is truly crazy times, and I want to acknowledge that there are some people in our M3 community. I got a message just before that someone's lost their job, and I just got a message before from somebody, and they said, "Hey Glenn, I want to organise a time to get some income protection sorted, as I don't have loan insurance and a bit worried about this whole economic landscape and job uncertainty like everyone would be." Now, I think we first need to understand what income protection insurance is and how it works, okay? So, firstly, it is to cover your income, and most quality retail insurance policies are like this. And if you want to deep dive into retail insurance policies like income protection, death cover, TPD cover, total and permanent disability cover, trauma insurance, go back and have a listen to My Millennial Money, episode 141, and we just spent an hour and we deep dive, and we're about to record a fresher one, but that will be a good start. But essentially, income protection insurance protects you and your income if you were unable to work due to accident or illness after an agreed waiting period, and then for an agreed benefit period. So an example might be the waiting period is 30 days. So let's work through this example, because I think it's important for you to understand the concepts of how the insurance works. Then we can talk about coronavirus and quarantine and not being able to work because of that stuff. So if I had income protection insurance, I was there's a main road down here. I was walking across the main road and I got hit by a car and I broke my leg. And I happened to be an electrician. I could not work for, say, 6 months. During the first 30 days, or the waiting period, I would not receive any money because I am exercising the waiting period. It's kind of like the excess, right? Then after the first month, I would have 75% of my income that I was insured for replaced until I return to work. So for the next 5 months, I would get 75% of my income paid monthly. All right. If I could not ever work again, and my policy was having a benefit period to age 65, I would continue to receive that monthly benefit until aged 65. So that's a broad brushstroke of how the policies work. Anything that you can think of due to accident or illness that will stop you working for more than the waiting period, essentially, right? There has been some changes with income protection, with agreed policies and indemnity, and the insurance companies having the right to rework terms on policies after 5 years and whatnot, but we won't get into that now. But I just want to get you to understand the concept. So if I lost my job tomorrow, if I was employed full-time as a project manager at a construction site, and they rocked up and said, "Hey Glenn, you're fired. There's no role for you anymore," my income protection insurance is of no benefit because I'm not off work due to accident or illness. So let's go one step further. If my work closed due to the government imposing some quarantine laws or anything like that to do with coronavirus, and I had income protection insurance, it would not cover me, unfortunately, because I'm still able to work, just not at that place, because I'm still physically and mentally fit to work. So the policy wouldn't be triggered, because each policy has basically, a good policy will have three tiers of disability definition. The first one being you can't do one or more important duties of your occupation. The second one might be you can't work for more than 10 hours per week due to accident or illness. Or the third one might be you can't earn more than 20% of your pre-disability earnings to generate an income. So it basically means if you can't work due to any accident or illness and you meet the definition of disability, which is pretty broad, then you would be able to claim. But again, if your work shuts the doors and says, hey Glenn, we can't have you here, there's no work, I can't claim on my policy because a doctor hasn't said I'm unable to work due to a personal medical event, albeit illness or injury. Now, income protection also covers mental health conditions. So it's important to know that a good quality policy set up for the long term and getting it locked in before you get a bit older and have medical events is of good value. But to cut to the chase, unfortunately, an income protection policy just is of no use to you if you get laid off work, made redundant, have to quarantine. If work said, oh, you've got the sniffles, you need to piss off home and quarantine for 14 days, you're still not declared unable to work due to accident and illness. Now, question, what if I am sick from being in quarantine? So if I have the sniffles and I get sent home, so technically, yes, a doctor could write that you are unable to work due to accident or illness. So it's an illness. I'm unable to work because I've got a cold. So technically, as soon as you see a doctor, the waiting period starts. Now, most policies have a 30-day waiting period. Some policies have a 90-day waiting period. So realistically, when was the last time you had a cold and flu that made you off work and unable to work for more than 30 days? It just doesn't happen. And this is this whole 14-day isolation thing. So even if you did get coronavirus, even if you did have a cold and flu, and the waiting period was triggered, you'd be actually declared fit to work within that month of the waiting period anyway. So I'm just trying to cut this as many different ways as possible so you really understand how the policies work. I believe income protection policies are really there for permanent disability or a significant health event that really knocks you out for more than 3 months or a year, okay? Most claims for income protection insurance on a 30-day waiting period are no more than 90 days. So if you were off work, if you broke your leg and you were off work for 3 months and you had a 30-day waiting period or 1 month, you would only get 2 months worth of benefits because you don't get a benefit during the waiting period. So income protection, it is good to have, but there's no point running out now and getting a policy to stop you from losing your income if you get fired, because I personally believe any of those redundancy insurances that are sold on TV are rubbish, because when was the last time you saw an ad for something on TV that was actually of good quality? I mean, people buy their freaking Snuggies on TV, people buy the new carrot chopper on TV. Like, most stuff on TV is usually rubbish, and it's called direct insurance, okay? So let's unpack this one step further. If you did want to buy redundancy insurance on TV, a lot of these policies, they would have a waiting period before you can claim. You might get the policy and can't claim on it for 3 months or 6 months. I haven't actually looked at the policies in great detail because they're essentially, I just don't think they're worth it. And the reason why is they would only replace your income for a short amount of time. The ones that I did look at, and it was a while ago, I think they only had a 3-month payment benefit, okay, if you were made redundant. So I believe you only insure for things that you can't control. If you were made redundant, or if you couldn't work, you can go and get another job elsewhere. You can go and pack shelves at Bunnings. You can go and mow lawns. You can just actually get out there and maybe do some casual shifts. Now, I know with the coronavirus, life is a little bit different, but broad brushstrokes, you can control being made redundant because if you're building your financial house soundly, you would have an emergency fund in place. Okay, so technically speaking, we shouldn't need to insure for redundancy. And I actually think the policies are not worth the paper they're written on. So what about mortgage insurance? So some of these policies were sold when people got mortgages or loan protection insurance. And basically what that means is they just repay the loan if you are unable to work due to accident or illness. There could be some policies that might pay the loan for 3 months if you get fired, or pay the loan for a month if you get fired. I don't know, because I don't buy this crap. Good quality emergency fund, good quality accident and illness insurance. We can't spend all our money on bloody insurance. Life is full of risks. We just have to manage that risk as much as possible. So headlines, income protection insurance, it only protects you if you're unable to work due to accident or illness after you've satisfied the waiting period. And that waiting period generally commences once you're under the care of a doctor. So if you break your leg, go see the doctor that day. So the waiting period starts that day. Yes, if you did get coronavirus, if you did get a chronic cold and flu and you couldn't work for longer than the waiting period. So if your waiting period was 30 days and then you got sick and you couldn't work for 32 days, technically speaking, you could put a claim in for those 2 days that you're off work. But realistically, it just doesn't happen. If you did get the coronavirus, you would not be ill or quarantined for more than 14 days anyway. So in the money world, and when we're building our financial life, we don't really worry about insuring for less than 30 days. And then once you build up your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, you might then take your income protection policy and put the waiting period for 90 days, which will make the premium cheaper. So a lot to digest there. And I just want to give Jelly a shout out. She's a good member of the Facebook community. She wrote, hey guys, I'm curious, has anyone's life been affected by COVID-19? Perhaps being quarantined, time off work, close of business, cancelled gigs. It's a really good discussion actually on the Facebook group. Cancelled flights, blah, blah, blah. I've heard that income protection doesn't cover pandemics. Is this true? Well, it will cover you if you are sick, and you've got to check the fine print. My policy certainly does, but I've just got to satisfy the definition of disability, being Glen is unable to work due to accident or illness, can't do at least one important duty, can't work for more than 10 hours a week, can't generate 20% of his income, and he's under the care of a doctor for more than the waiting period. So once I've meet that definition for longer than 30 days, I can commence a claim. But again, just check the fine print. But broad brushstrokes, what we need to know is you are not covered if you're told to go home and quarantine. You're not covered for your income if your work boots you out because there's no work. And yeah, well, that was a bit of a ranty rant, wasn't it? Just got worked up there. Hopefully that makes sense. But follow us, jump into the Facebook group, and if you've got any questions about income insurance, I'll jump in and answer them. But it's good to have this stuff. And if you don't have it in place, don't run out and get it now because you're just going to think I might get sick. Just step back and go, as a foundation in my financial life, do I want to protect my most important asset, which is my ability to earn income? So you sitting there, you might be generating $3 million or more over the next 20 years of your life. I certainly would want to protect that, and I do. So thanks for watching, and thanks for listening if you're listening on the podcast, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.